Okay, so I just wanted to give a rundown of the Ableton sessions for the weekends. First off, how do you open them on the campus computers? You're going to go to the worship folder. You're going to go to weekend sets, and then the year, the month, the week. And you're going to see that you're going to have to download the master project, and then you're going to have to download the specific session file for your campus. Once you download the master project, you want to put the campus session in the master project folder. So you want it to look like this. You want to have the June 16th master project, and then inside the folder is where you want to put the campus session that you also get from the drive. That way I can just upload the masters well ahead of time, and then as I make changes to the campus sessions, I can save just the sessions, and you'll see they're really small files, so I can open those and transfer those really quickly. But you just got to make sure you put them in the folder, the master folder. Okay, once you have that in there, you can go ahead and open up your specific campus. So we're going to open up Orland Parks. Now here it is. So let's just give a quick rundown of how this is set up so you guys can effectively use it on Sundays. Every single song, this is super important, every single song and every track that is in every single song is all going to, so if I open it up, it goes to a sends only. Every single one of them, sends only, sends only. If it doesn't, then you should adjust that so it does go to a sends only if you ever see a file, a track that doesn't go to sends only. So that means they're all going to be on, every single one of them. I do turn off the background vocal ones because we will never use those on a weekend. But everything else, I mean, they're all going to be on, every single one of them. And the reason why is because those are going to get sent down here. These tracks down here are the return tracks. So in other words, those things that say sends only, they're going to send to these tracks down here, the return tracks. And this is where we're going to turn on and off what we want to hear. So if you don't want to have the drums on, you would have to mute that by turning off that whole entire group track right there. And it will turn off the drums for every single song in that session. If your bass player didn't come that week and you did need to turn on the bass track, you would turn it on here. And it would do it for every single song. Okay? So it's not important what's muted in these group folders. What's important is what's muted and unmuted down here. Okay, in these return tracks. For a run through, if you want to hear the AVL track, then you can just unmute it here and you'll get the AVL track. Doing it up here under reference is not going to make a difference because it's going to the sends only. That means it's not going out to the front of house, it's only going to this AVL send, this return. So you have to unmute it here. Okay, so if you walk into a rehearsal and you're noticing every single instrument is on, well, that's probably because these groups have been unmuted, maybe for a production run through. So you can just go ahead and mute those particular return tracks, those tracks down there. Or if you notice the AVL is on, you're going to do it here. If you want to have a better understanding of how those are getting sent, you can go to your session view here, and if you scroll over to the song file, like if I scroll over to Lord I Need You, you'll see all of the tracks here have some sort of volume going to a send. So that's how they're getting sent there. So anything that's going to be track support is going out of send A. So I'm sending it out A, and it's going here to tracks. Everything that's not going to be track support, like EG1, is going to go to D. That's the EG1 return. Or the AG channel is going to go to E because that's the acoustic return. And that's how all of these are set up. So every single song is like that. They all should be highlighted with the blue volumes for each send group that they have them going to. And like I said, if something doesn't say sends only, then I must have just forgot to do that, and it will effectively come out of the master output, which is usually 3 and 4 or 1 and 2, and then you will hear it in the front of house. So that's how those returns work, those return tracks down here. All right, the next really important thing that you would have to know are your MIDI commands. To check to see if MIDI is set up, just go ahead and hit the MIDI button here. And if you open up this side profile, you'll see all the MIDI assignments. And this is what it should look like. If it's not triggering on your Looptimus, then maybe you should switch it to channel 1 because that's what we're going to run all the Looptimus on from now on, is channel 1. If it's still not triggering, then it probably has to do with a connection between the loop dimist and the computer. So you would go to your audio and MIDI setup. Oops, I did the wrong one. So you can type that in, audio and MIDI setup here. And then you would want to go to your window, show network device browser. Oh, wrong one, sorry. Window, show MIDI studio, my bad. And then you want to go to your global one here, and you'll have a list of MIDI controllers. I don't have it plugged in right now, so you would see the Play Audio 12. You would choose to, it should already be participating, and you would see the MIO, which is the loop dimist, which should also participate. If it's not, then you would select MIO 1, double click it, and it will connect it so it's participating. So those are the two issues that would cause the loop dimist to not work with the computer. Either your MIDI is on the wrong channel, because it's always going to be set up here. You can always double check it, but it should always be set up. So make sure you're on channel 1 on the loop dimist, or because the loop dimist isn't connected to the computer, if it got disconnected. And you can check that by going to your audio and MIDI setup, going to your MIDI suite, and then checking it from there. Let's see here. Other things that you should probably know if you're running in here. All of these groups here, these return tracks, they're kind of like in playback, where we would have to send we would go to our buses, and we would go to where we would send our buses. That's what these are. So right now they all say that they're getting sent to 1 and 2. That's because I don't have an interface plugged in. If I did, it would give me more channels. You want to make sure that at the church they're all sent out 3 and 4, except for the choir. This is the only one that should be sent out 5 and 6. So I'm just going to name that 5 and 6. So it should actually say like choir 5 and 6, piano 3 and 4, AG, because those are what they should be going at. If they're not, then you need to change that. And that's for up here as well. MIDI click goes out 1, audio click goes out 1, time code should go out 8, so you would click that down and look for 8, but I don't have it because I don't have 8 tracks set up. Basically, because I don't have an interface set up, I'm only allowed to send it out of 1 or 2, because my outputs on my Mac are just 2 outputs. Your guide should be going out 2, so these are your groups. These are how we know how to send out. So all click stuff goes out 1, all guide stuff goes out 2, all time code goes out 8, and then your groups, all your instruments should go out 3 and 4, except for your choir, which goes out 5 and 6. All right. Next would be the transitions. Now, you shouldn't have to do this, because I should already have them programmed, but if I ever forget to, this is how transitions are programmed right here through this MIDI command. And all these MIDI commands can be found in the session view right here under starts and stops. Any MIDI command that you need are right here. So if you need to add a stop, what you would do is you would click on stop, hit Command C, and then you would go and put the stop where you need it at the end of the song, like right here. And now it will stop instead of continuing on forever. However, for this song, we're going to jump to song 2, so that's why I used a jump to song 2 MIDI command. And what that would do is, here, let me just see here. As it's playing, you're going to see it hit this and jump to song 2. Okay, so that's how we can set up our transitions. Now, in order to have a smooth transition, you want it to also bring with it the remaining tracks here, or else it'll just cut off all that sound, cut off all those tracks. So you would just basically highlight from beat 2, because it's going to take 1 beat for this to trigger, and then it's going to jump. So therefore you want to highlight from here, from beat 2, all the way to the end here. Oops. You would copy this by Command C, hit 2, because we're going to jump to song 2, and then you would paste it right there. And now it'll, when it jumps, it won't just lose all those tracks, and it'll be a nice smooth transition. You shouldn't have to be building transitions though. I should do that, but just so you know how they work, and if there's one not in there. So you'll notice at the end of every song here, I should have either a jump or a stop. And if I don't, then that's my bad. You can let me know. Or if it's simple like adding a stop, you can add a stop. And if you want to try your hand at building that transition, you can try. Some transitions are not the most smooth transitions, so I'll add a pad in between them as well. If you ever need to add a pad, those are also over here in the session view. You can go, and I have pads for each of these keys. On the loop to miss, if you click 5, it's going to start you over here. And this is a pad loop. So what I did here was I just programmed a tempo track, a click track, and a pad. Now you might have to change these depending on if you want a pad loop section, but that's how you would start it, is by hitting 5 and then start. And what that'll do is that'll start whatever pad track is here in whatever tempo and time that you need. Now if you wanted to change that MIDI click, you would just click on that MIDI click. Oh no, you don't click on the MIDI click, I'm sorry. If you want to change that MIDI click, you click on the tempo track. That's how you change the tempo of that click. So I'm going to double click on this, and right here, BPM, I would just change that to whatever I wanted it to. And let me see, I go 80. And then it should, I'm going to push 80, and then I have to push this again. So I'm going to push lead twice to deactivate it and turn it back on. That way it changes that to 80. You'll notice it changed the tempo up here to 80, and then that will affect the MIDI click that's happening here. Let me turn that up. So now we have the pad rolling, and we have the MIDI click happening at 80. Now this is going to give you a 5-minute pad, and when it gets to the end here, it will just loop that pad. So it's going to just jump to the restart right here. To exit the pad, you have to trigger the fade out cue. I don't know what that's going to be yet on the loop to miss because we ran out of numbers. So I got to figure that out, but essentially what's going to happen is eventually we're going to have to trigger something on the loop to miss to go to here, fade out, and then it will slowly fade it out. Reason being is if you just hit stop, it's just going to be a really abrupt off. We don't want that. So instead, we need to have this programmed to either go to a song, directly into a song, or we need to program it to go to a fade out, where we can then, after it fades out, cue up whatever song we want.
1, 2.
Cool. I think that's everything you guys should have to know about this session. This is a really great template, and there's a lot of other really fun things that we can explore if we ever want to get into them, especially in this area here. Changing things from the guide, adding or changing your MIDI click. But for right now, I think all that MDs and worship leaders should know is the groups assignments, the group on-off muting buttons, and the start, stops, and transition features, and the loop feature over here. So I think those are pretty much the main things that you guys were probably using in playback, and I wanted to give us the same features that we had in playback in Ableton and make them easy for our worship leaders and our MDs to employ and to utilize. So that's how we can do that. We can build our own song transitions right here using the MIDI command keys. We can automate or turn on and off instrument group tracks right here. We can control all of our buses right here. And we can activate a pad between transitions by opening up our pad track. And basically what we'd have to do to activate a pad is go into our session view, copy the pad we want, Command C, and then drop it into our transition part right here, Command V. And now we have a pad running through that whole entire song. Now this pad is really long, so what you would want to do is shorten the ending of it to where you would want it to stop. If you want to have this stop before the first verse, you can just shorten it to here, and then click, drag over to where you want it to start fading out. And I want it to start fading out right here, and hit Option Command F, and now it's going to do a fade out right there as well. Okay, so that's how we can add a pad anywhere in the song that we want as well. And we can also, if we just want to have a blank pad and click section in the service, we can activate that over here, which is number 5 on the loop to miss. And if we want to check our MIDI, we can check it through here, MIDI, open up our window, and if it's still not connected, then we can check by going to our computers MIDI and audio device setup right here. Clicking on the window, show MIDI Studio, open up your global right here and check out what's connected and not, what not. Hopefully that helps you guys.